Hello, welcome to the 2021 NYLA Council Candidates Q&A. Today we'll be speaking with Joe Burke from the Altamont Free Library, who is running for NYLA Treasurer. Before we begin, please note the session was pre-recorded for your convenience, and we encourage you to take the time to watch each of the candidates' Q&As to get to know each of your candidates. The 2021 NYLA Council election will open voting starting on June 15th and will close on July 15th. NYLA will send details on how to vote via email. Also, please note that your vote is anonymous and you will only be able to submit your ballot once. And also, in order to vote, you must be an active NYLA member. If you have any questions about voting, feel free to email me at marketing@nyla.org. Finally, full bios of all the candidates and the full recording of each Q&A session will be made available using the link found in the slide at the end of this recording. So let's get started. How are you doing today, Joe?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, Christina.
Good. So our first question is, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Again, my name is Joe Burke. I am the director of the Altamont Free Library in Altamont, New York, in sort of suburban, rural Albany County. You may hear a little bit of traffic noise in the background. I'm outside so that I don't have to wear my mask. I've been pretty firm about mandating mask wearing inside the library, so that's why I'm outside. I've been the director here for about 6.5 years. I started January 2nd, 2015. I was born and raised on Long Island, Huntington. I went to college in SUNY New Paltz, and I graduated with a degree in political science and history, minor in history. With my then girlfriend, now wife, I moved up to Albany in 2002, and that's where I still live. My library journey began at the wonderful Albany Public Library, where I was knocking around because my wife had an awesome full-time job right out of college back when that was a thing that you could get. And I didn't. I was hustling pretty hard to, string together a career. And I had jobs at coffee shops and record store up on Central Avenue, retail and some advocacy spots. But I spent a lot of time at the library, particularly in the reference department, where I would use the computers because we didn't have one at the time. And I was always applying for jobs, and I got to know a guy named Chris Sagas, who is now the director of the Utica Public Library. He saw me out at shows, he saw me out at my record store, and he saw me coming into the library and applying for all these jobs. And one day he said, we've got a clerk position open up, you should think about applying. When I was growing up, I had spent tons and tons of time at my local Huntington Public Library. And I worked from the time that I was 14 on, but nobody ever suggested before Chris that working in libraries was a thing that you could do, that was a career choice that they just let you into. And it kind of blew my mind. So I to this day am profoundly grateful to Chris for having planted that seed in my mind. I applied and got a clerk job there. I continued to work at the Albany Public Library for about 11 years. I decided while I was clerking there to go to library school. And so from 2006 to 2009, I went to University of Albany in their MSIS program, graduated in May 2009. I took a little bit of time off from working when my twin boys were born.
Yeah.
And then I got a pretty great part-time job at the University of Albany Reference and Information Literacy Department. It was a paraprofessional position, but I learned a lot about academic libraries, and in particular, how I did not quite fit into the culture and environment of the academic libraries. So now I'm back at in public libraries, which I love, and I honestly couldn't think of any place better to to work. It is the this is kind of my dream job. So that's it.
Such a story. I lived in Huntington for a little bit too, so I recognize that. Yeah, a small part of my life, but anyway,
we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. Yeah, side combo.
So the next question is, how have your experiences prepared you to serve as NYLA treasurer?
Well, I think that being a library director of a small library without much of an office staff, you end up doing just about every administrative task that there is. And so becoming a library director, requires a deep dive into budgeting, into bookkeeping, into laws and regulations about fundraising, how money can be spent, how money has to be sequestered for certain purposes, can be spent on certain things, can't be spent on other things, on the advocacy that surrounds budgeting. So that was a tremendous education for me. I was kind of thrown in to the deep end when I arrived here because not only had the previous director left, but also our very, very long time treasurer had left at the same time. She was term limited off the board. And so everybody on the board, we had a new board president, a new treasurer, a new director. And so we all needed to work together to figure out the finances. So I think that we've done a great job over the 6 years that I've been here. We've increased our financial holdings by 68%. Looking for grants and efficiencies where we can find them in order to save money, spending the taxpayers' money wisely, and giving people a good reason to donate to us, making sure that our patrons are engaged. I think this is all really important, and I think it's things that can be brought to bear within the treasurer's position at NYLA. So those are a couple of reasons that I think I'd have a pretty good handle on the treasurer's role.
Awesome, thank you. So we're going to kind of change our direction a little bit. So what do you feel is our biggest challenge as we move into the post-pandemic world?
Oh, there's so many. There's so many. There's so many challenges, Christina. There's so many challenges. From an organizational standpoint, making sure that our members are engaged, like I said, making sure that our members are engaged, that our sections and our roundtables are strong. That's a big challenge because, we don't want to see declining membership and declining revenue because of declining membership. I think that we need to do a lot of work on how we interact with our members. If we are going to be moving slightly away from in-person conferences, then reconstructing the knowledge sharing infrastructure that we spent 125 years doing one way. Now maybe we're going to have to start thinking about we've had to think about new ways of networking and sharing information. And in large part, I think NYLA has done a very admirable job in doing that. But there's also the hard internal stuff of taking stock of taking a hard, challenging, introspective look at the organization, and who our members are and who our members are not, and who has been heard from quite enough already, and whose voices have not been heard to the same degree. I think there's there's so many libraries and so many organizations that have taken the opportunities over the past year to do that introspective, challenging work. And I think that NYLA has to do some of that work too. I think we all know that within our individual libraries that our staffs and our boards and our collections
Mhm.
rarely reflect the communities that we serve
Right.
to the fullest degree. And like I said, I mean, we've a lot of us have been doing work on that over the past year, um, but there's always more to be done. So that's a challenge that we have ahead of us, and it's a permanent challenge. It's something that we just have to bake into the our normal mode of doing business, um, so that when we have fewer challenges and fewer headwinds that we're facing, we are still in an introspective, contemplative mode of uh, of, of recognizing um, recognizing all of the voices
Right.
that we have within our organization.
I completely agree. So our next question is, how do you see libraries moving forward or staying vital in the next decade and beyond?
Yeah,
A large question.
it's such a large question, and it's one of those questions that um, uh, I think that librarians have been asking themselves, and people have been asking about libraries since about the Polk administration.
Yeah.
You know, uh, when novels came around, or well, whatever. I mean, it's the thing that we have um, that other organizations don't is the incredible human element of the NYLA membership.
Mhm.
Um, the members of NYLA have more good, creative, beneficial ideas in a week
Mm.
than, for example, the accounting industry has had since the Ford administration. Um, right. So uh, we know we need to stay engaged with our communities. We need to maintain that human level element
Yeah.
of communication and being personally in touch with our communities, with our stakeholders, bringing more people in. I mean, there's always the technology piece of it. Uh, Bringing in new technologies, bringing in new types of collections, and some of the new types of collections that we see are really cool. But for every well utilized, well programmed around 3D printer in New York State, there are probably two that are gathering dust.
Mhm.
So technology isn't the be all and end all. What I like um, uh, the human level uh, programming opportunities that we get when we so for example
Yeah.
our my own Albany Public Library, my hometown library, um, has been acting as a COVID clinic
Mm.
for vaccines, and
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of libraries have been doing that. But that's a great way to outreach into
Right.
the community and stay vital for the communities that library serves. My neighboring Voorheesville Public Library just added bikes to their library of things that you can borrow. I think that's a really
Yeah.
cool thing. The Guilderland Public Library has been serving as a place where you can do some of your sort of the business that you would normally do at the DMV, or at you can get a fishing license, you can get a passport. So it's things like that. It's ways of engaging with your community, creating new tool libraries, seed libraries,
Mhm.
drones. But we always have to keep in mind the human element, and we stay vital when we stay connected. And
Mhm.
the more conversations that we're having with stakeholders, with community groups, the more people that we're accosting on the street and telling them about story times, which I did 20 minutes ago. That's how we're staying connected. It's I'm mindful of the fact that my library just started doing in-person story times for the first time in 14 months last week. We'd been doing the video story times we've been doing, and we thought we were doing really well with those. Put them out through our YouTube and our social media feeds, uh, and we were getting a couple of clicks, but we kept at it. Our first story time in person back, we had 36 people out, and this is in a very small community. Most of those people were walking to the park where we were doing it outside. Um, so that, that in-person element is always going to be the most important thing.
Yeah.
No matter what the surrounding technologies that we're working with, whether those are the technology is books or whether the technology is drones.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And then our final question, which you kind of touched upon the other ones, is what do you see as the priority for NYLA in the next year?
Um, wouldn't it be nice if, if there were so few challenges and opportunities ahead of us that we could only have one priority? Like, but we don't have that luxury, unfortunately. Everything has to be the top priority.
Mhm.
You know, as I was coming in today, there was a radio program about the potentially $4 trillion infrastructure bill, and when something like that is coming down the pike, then that's a once in a generation opportunity um, for librarians to make the case that not only are we education, but we're also infrastructure,
Mhm.
and that we have a tremendous role to play in bridging the digital divide in communities where we already have credibility. And so if that's happening today, then that has to be the top priority today.
Yeah.
Um, but there also have to be those priorities that we, like I was saying before, have to be kept as a constant part of our repertoire. Making sure that our membership is engaged, making sure that we're asking the right questions about who's at the table and who's not, making sure that we have strong sections, that our sections and our members are being heard and
Mhm.
being responded to, and being respected, and that we're doing everything that we can to engage our membership. I mean, we're there. We are the Care Bears. We are the Justice League. There's more. Um, there's more human goodness in the library community than I think just about any collection of people that I've ever had any experience of dealing with, and that deep reservoir of goodness and kindness and beneficence uh, needs to be tapped, and tapped in a way that can be projected out to make the world a better place. I mean, we can do it. There's the core values of our industry and our profession um, jive so nicely with the values and the priorities that we need in this world. That the
Yeah.
openness and open communication, and the importance of facts, and
Mhm.
the importance of acceptance, and um, and the importance of sharing on a very
Mhm.
basic level, just sharing.
Yeah.
Um, so that's a lot there. I so those are some of the things that have to be the top priority on any given day or in any given hour in that day.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today, Joe. And as I
It's been a
mentioned,
pleasure.
yeah. And as I mentioned before, in the next slide, you'll see all the information on how to vote. And yeah, well, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you very much, Christina.
Bye. And